Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Friday night sit down with Nick.
Nadine. Okay, in today's topic, we're talking marriage and money. We are going to show you guys how to avoid arguments and how to actually build financial health and wealth together. Okay, so we've been wanting to kind of talk about topics surrounding marriage and money. Often we hear a lot of people and the way like they speak about the way how they manage their finances in their marriage. So this is always one that we are constantly discussing amongst ourselves. Now, there's no perfect way to do anything, and disclaimer, we are not professionals, but we know what works for us and what has been working for us. So this is why we like to share some of those topics with you guys. Okay, so if you guys are interested in marriage topics, marriage relationship topics, this is your place to be. We try to get them out on Friday night. However, it will go out sometime during the weekend. So if you guys have not subscribed already, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And during the week and on other days, we also have a lot of other lifestyle videos, home decor, lots and lots of shopping. So in those videos, basically, I go through how to decorate your space on a budget. So to get the look for less, way less. And so if you're into decor, faith, family fun, and lots of shopping, this is your place to be. Okay, so let's move into this topic because I know this one is one of Nick's favorite topics to talk about. I have to say it's one of his favorites, one of my least favorites. And as a married couple, I have had to learn to adjust accordingly. Okay, so often money can cause arguments, and sometimes it will even lead to divorce. So Nick, what are some of the things I can say? Definitely talking about money sometimes causes resentment. What are some of the things that you think talking about money just immediately can conjure up in people, and why it sometimes leads to arguments?
Well, I think when it comes to any type of finance in a relationship, it has to be it has to be it has to be a joint effort. It has to be both people have
Excuse me.
to agree on what and what that financial burden is, right? So, for example, if um, there's a big purchase that needs to be made, that needs to be made, I think more often than well, it's not more often. People tend to like, you should. I think this is what I think. I think you should always consult your other half when there's big purchases, and don't especially big purchases. Don't try to take that on by yourself, or go ahead and make that decision that's gonna put you in a financial I don't want to say setback, but it will do some damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
To your savings or to your little buffering money, I call it, or whatever. So yeah, both people have to agree on it, I think, in
Okay.
order for it to work. Because if one person agrees and the next person doesn't agree, then that's when I
It
think
causes fights
that's
and
when the
arguments.
that's when the fights start. Sorry guys if I kind of if I kind of rambled through that, but I think you get what I'm saying though.
So, okay, so resentment is one of the things. Just excuse me while I refer to my notes. Resentment is one of the things that is a major deal. So, if you can't talk about money and you're in financial crisis or you're walking into financial crisis, that is a major problem. And I know statistically it's a high result. Divorces are a high result of financial issues, although rich people do get divorced too. So it's not the only issue.
Mhm.
So let's just kind of dive into it because the whole purpose of being married together is to build wealth, right? Build wealth and success
Yeah.
along the way. Did you see something weird?
Mm. No, I
Okay.
just.
Okay. So so we want to be better than we were before we came into the marriage, right? Do you think you're
Yeah.
better than you were before you came into this marriage?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Financially?
I think financially. I think spiritually. I think um just mentally. Like I've improved, and I'm in a better space than I was before, and um I, I'm getting better every day too. So yeah.
Okay. So I would definitely concur. Um I when it comes to the finances part though, I think Nick was always better in some ways than I was. And finances is one of those things that I'm kind of like the dreaded conversation every time like the conversation comes up. It's always like I'm the one that's like, okay, it's a dreaded conversation. Like I don't even want to talk about it. Let's just not talk about it and let's just read each other's mind and know what to do kind of thing. But sometimes you have to just sit down because I think I have that problem and I think a lot of women have that problem, right? Where they don't want to discuss it. I think the biggest issue with that is without going into detail because I'm going to kind of siphon over some of the points that we're going to get into. But I think the biggest issue with why somebody wouldn't want to discuss money issues is because they kind of just want to be free and do what they want to do. They don't want any kind of boundaries or anybody to leverage their abilities to do it. So let's just talk about the common mistakes that people make in marriages that they don't even realize they're making. And some of this really stems from the way how we were grown, right? So a lot of times women are told to do things a certain way financially and even told sometimes to keep this account over here and keep it a secret. But that entering a marriage like that is a big red flag because if you have a secret account or secret finances and you feel like it's your protection in the marriage, you have already told yourself that marriage is about to fail. Okay.
Yeah, and but I have something for that, but it's a difference in because I've spoken to a lot of people, and I always the bank account issue always I always ask those questions,
So
right?
keeping separate
And
accounts.
and um and there's a difference in having a secret account and having a separate account. So, because I mean, let's be real. Like, if you want to surprise your wife or your husband or whoever, and you want to buy something,
Mhm.
and they don't know about it, it's okay. I think in that aspect, it's okay that she could, as long as I mean, obviously your significant other know about that account,
Mhm.
right? But um
Maybe they're not in the
but they're not
account like
in the
that.
account like that.
Hmm.
But for you to have just a complete separate secret account that nobody knows about, then I think that's kind of I
Treading a
yeah,
line
you're
of
really
danger.
treading the line. But yeah, you can have a separate account to do whatever you need to do for your spouse or whatever, but just not a secret separate account.
Yeah.
So that's where I see the differences with
So
that.
it looks like the biggest mistakes basically keeping a separate finance with no plan. So basically, lack of transparency causes total mistrust. So if I don't trust you with finances, we're doing separate accounts, there's instant mistrust. That's a red flag in a marriage. The next red flag is going to be one spouse controlling all the finances. So one spouse is dictating what happens with everything, where everything is allotted. So then you have the other spouse that's feeling very resentful, feeling like they have no say, feeling like they can't do anything, they're trapped. And it's not a balanced situation. The
Yeah.
next one, and we're going to go over all these kind of things quickly, but spending without communicating. So,
I think I touched on that earlier. The first I touched on that earlier with the huge purchase. It has to be a joint effort. You know, it has to be a joint effort, especially when you're making a big purchase. But yeah,
so small secret purchases can erode trust. And I mean, I think everybody's guilty of that to some level, but it depends, right? So you're in a marriage, how much is that going to affect the marriage, right? There's been times when Nick buys music equipment and I don't know. I don't even know how much it costs. Honestly, it doesn't really affect me all that much. Um and there's times when I buy home decor and he may not know. And I think he has lost track of what we have and what we don't have at this point. But, it really just depends on the level and the severity and the frequency. And it depends on the two of you and how you view that thing. So if there's something being spent on that the other doesn't know, no, I'm not speaking about minor things, but some small purchases that are not acceptable to the other spouse
yeah.
could become a problem
I
too. And
mean,
then big purchases.
I think with that too, priorities, right? Like I think you're not gonna you purchase your priorities have to be in order,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can't be purchasing stuff that you don't need
Mm-hmm.
at that moment in
Mm-hmm.
time, right? Obviously, we all know a want is different than a need. So, as long as you are aware of that and you stay consistent to that, then I think you will be fine.
So that leads into the goals, right? So I'm going to say it again because some of you guys are not getting it. And I have been guilty of this myself, but must, for the hard headed people, you must have a goal. Okay. Because some of you guys are not listening to the goal part. And that is why you are going to struggle. Okay. So if you have an end goal, a place that you want to land at the end of the day financially,
Yeah.
that makes it a little bit easier, right? And like I say, I'm probably the weaker one on all of this stuff here, because I started making money, like a lot of money, very young, right? And I think for the age that I started to make quite a bit of money at a very young age. And honestly, the beginning was better than somewhere along the line because the saying, more money, more problems. The more money you make, the less you know how to handle it. And I was probably like 21 years old, just
But
making money.
but that's where discipline comes in. You have to do when it comes to financial stability in one's life. That's where discipline comes in. You have to be super super disciplined. And whenever you lose that discipline, that's when things is going to go bad. So consistency and discipline is what will, in my opinion, that's what will keep you financially grounded and stable in whatever you decide or whatever you're doing financially.
Mhm.
So
And when you lack discipline, the stress is definitely, it's going to be higher, right? So there's
yeah.
going to be definite higher.
and
Okay.
and I won't say, I know it's cliche to say the is not how much you make is what you do with it. I wouldn't say how much you make is how much. I would say whatever you make is what you do with that amount you make. You know, because um everybody needs money. Everybody needs to make money. So I'm not gonna say, and you can't. I mean, let's be real. If you don't make the amount that you need to make to do what you want to do, then you can't do it. You can't. It's not gonna happen. So I wouldn't. I it's not. I wouldn't say it's not what you make. It's what you do with it. I know it's a deeper meaning, but um, I would say to that, I would say is what you do and what you make.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's my thing. What you do with what you make will make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That yeah, that does. That's pretty deep actually, and it does definitely make a difference. So, okay, real quick before we continue, please kindly hit the comment section below and let us know which one of these that I just spoke about, um, which one of these biggest mistakes do you think you have made previously in a relationship or a marriage, keeping separate finances with no plan, one spouse controlling all the money, spending without communicating, no budgets, and what else? Did we hit all of it? No budgets. Did we hit it all? Yeah, having no budget, no budget, no plan. That's what it was. No
Yeah,
budget, no plan.
and this honestly this topic is honestly this is a short topic because we don't want to be here preaching to people because people make their money and do whatever they want to do with their money. We're just sharing with you guys whatever works for us and
Mm-hmm.
what we do and how we do. So this is just merely our way of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not we're not telling anybody that you have to do this
It's just
or
a
this
way
is
that
what
we
it is.
think works,
But
right?
this is what works for us,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is proven stuff we're talking about that works for us. So and we're sharing with you guys. So yeah.
Okay, let's go over five key strategies that we think make a marriage more financially strong or financially stronger, not more financially stronger. Let's get the English right. Okay. Okay. So a monthly date night. Nick has pulled this one out on me. Oh, we need to go and sit down and talk about finances. And me over here, I'm like, what? Is something wrong? Did I do something wrong? So that's a very wise thing to do. A monthly date night. So one night out of the month
Yeah.
before the next month comes, go and discuss what you guys have to do the following month. And I'm really trying to work my mind. A lot of this is getting your mind right and getting your mind to understand, hey, if you don't do this, then certain things can't occur, right? I'm in a position that I honestly never saw myself in at this very moment. And I can attribute all of it to my husband because he's a little more savvy in those areas than I am. And there have been times when I have argued with him about finances, and he has literally ignored me, and I have thrown a hissy fit, and he has literally ignored me. Now, I'm not promoting the ignore part, but I think he strategically did that. And eventually I came to my senses and realized he may have moved this way for the betterment of our family and our future. And it took me a little while to walk into that because, like I said, I was young. I had a very good career. And how much money you make is relative. Like, what is good money is relative from one person to the other. But the bottom line is I was very young, making more money than most of my peers, right?
Yeah.
And just kind of throwing it around sometimes here and there. And so it was hard for me to kind of readjust my thinking. Being so young, when you're young, it's hard to kind of align your thinking with another person's thinking, right?
Yeah. And that's something we talk about all the time, right? Like life has a way of just throwing you curveball every single day, right? Every single moment when you least expect it, then that curveball hits you, right? And we talk about this all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Adjusting, right? That's for me. That's a big. That word right there is huge in the makeup
I still
of
have more adjusting to
in the
do, by the
makeup
way.
in the
But yeah.
makeup of what
But
we
I'm
do.
better. I'm better. Am I better than I used to
Yeah,
be?
you are in the
Mhm.
makeup of what we in the makeup of what we do, and how we do things. Because if you the if you can't adjust,
Mhm.
then I think you're gonna have issues. You know, and um every day every day when I get up and I think about certain things and how we're gonna do certain things or whatever. How can I make things better? How can I do this? How can I do that? That's adjusting.
Mhm.
And once you figure out a way how to adjust, then you have to stay. Then you have to be consistent with it, right?
Mhm.
And then after being consistent, you have to be disciplined.
Mhm.
So, um, so those three things, man, those three things are things that I really try to practice on a daily.
I'm going to stop you because you said something, as you said that just now. I remember you saying something as we were teaching our daughter something about finances, and you mentioned something. And I'm going to come back to this. I just want to go to like step number 2, which is creating a no judgment zone. When Nick was like, okay, we got to like put all this stuff on the table, we got like be honest about it. It's okay. Like, it's okay. We're together. We are a couple. So if there's something wrong on your end, there's something wrong on my end. If there's something wrong on my end, guess what? There's something wrong on your end. So we're not going to argue about this. We're just going to figure it out. Now that even took me a moment to understand. Like, okay, he's going to be okay with whatever I say or whatever I'm doing or whatever I need or say that I want to do. He's not going to judge me. He's going to listen, and then we're going to figure it out together. So that we are so sorry. We just had a little bit of device malfunction. Our battery died. And so, what was I saying? Okay, so I think I was talking about just like having a date night monthly to discuss finances
Mhm.
and how, um, which one should, so we were talking about the monthly date night. And then I think I was saying to Nick, I was saying that, I had to really, really adjust. Nick had to kind of explain to me how it was going to be a no judgment zone. He had to kind of get that in my head over and over and over again and explain to me, hey, like this is less for judgment, for no judgment actually, and more to just kind of get us where we need to be so that things are a little bit easier for us. So I have to admit, sometimes I still kind of am like holding my head down and scared to have the conversation. But the reality is, honestly, I don't really hide from my husband. Like, he knows that I sneak the stuff into the house to the guest room, the stuff that I don't want him to see. I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like I shouldn't buy anything at all in my head. He says it's okay, because he feels like I don't spend frivolously. But sometimes I guess within myself. So that's more of a thing probably that I have to work on. So I do hide, but it's not like explicit hiding. It's hiding that he knows about. It just, I guess it makes me feel better somehow. But I do have to work on that because that shouldn't even be a thing, right? Why is that a thing? It shouldn't be a thing. So the next thing is, um, so yeah, creating a no judgment zone, habits and financial fears. So you need deliverance from the financial fears. Why are you scared? Why don't you want to discuss it? What happened? Like something had to have happened to make you feel this way at some point along the way, right? Um, and you'll find a lot of people, especially if they grew up with being less fortunate, they tend to like now they can buy everything they want, and then they tend to have a lot more issues as well as people that grew up very fortunate and maybe they don't have it the way they did have it. That can also be a source of a problem. So, deciding on spending limits. Have we ever really talked about a spending limits? I think that's an area that we flow kind of.
Spending limits. Well, I mean that could mean many things, right? Spending limit for groceries, spending limit for clothes, spending limit for leisure, spending limits for whatever you want to be.
So I'm
You know what I mean?
referring to like if you want to make like a big purchase, what is the limit? I think okay, so for us, I don't think we've ever definitively discussed it, but we know within ourselves what is considered expensive and what we need to talk about. I think we
Yeah.
kind of
No, we I mean
know, right?
there is when it comes to like when it comes to big purchases or whatever, like
We
obviously,
consult each other at some point.
yeah, no, obviously we talk about it, but we're not um we try to find the best deals, right? And you try to be you try to be smart about it, and obviously you're not gonna make a budget that is not gonna get to what you want it to get to. You still have to you still have to keep in mind that you have to give for some leeway or whatever. And if that budget or doesn't reach the goal that you're trying to get to, then maybe you'd have to wait a little longer
Hmm.
or try to do something else, right? But yeah, there is limits which falls right along the line as budgeting.
So what is 100? Is it
So
$100 for you guys?
yeah.
Is it $1,000?
So
Like, what is the limit for
I
a purchase?
yeah, and a great example of that is um whenever we purchase our vehicles, like it was there was a limit that I was not trying to go over, and we spoke about it, and we actually found our vehicles um that was actually that's practical and work for us
Hmm.
for the price that we wanted. So um yeah, there is actual
Or
limits
in your
then in
case,
that,
going much under
you know.
even your limit,
Yeah,
just
or yeah, you always. I mean,
because
if
it
I could,
becomes sensible,
yeah, if I could
right?
go under my, if I could, if it's always a win if I could go under my limit. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? So, um, but there's cases where obviously sometimes it's gonna go a little bit over
Hmm.
or whatever. So you still have to have that little give and take for whatever you do. So, um, but yeah,
You said something that made me do a recall just now. I'm trying to remember what it was. Um, I lost it. Maybe it'll come back to me. But so we decide on spending limits, and so that it doesn't cause any distrust, right? You make sure that you're spending within reasonable limits. What we often do, even if we end up buying something that the other doesn't know that we're going to buy, the discussion has happened. Even if I were to do it as a surprise
yeah,
and it's a large purchase, the discussion has happened at some point. So I already know that he's on board with it. It's just, it might be like a when situation, but I already know that he's definitely on board. So investing and saving together, that's a big one. In this day and age, it's so hard to do anything because of the way how the economy is. But investing, when the camera shut off just a moment ago, we were just talking about something that we invested in years ago that was working, and we were just kind of we had a quick conversation, a financial conversation in between the camera cut. But doing things like that is very, very pertinent. Now with Nick, he's more of a risk taker than I am. I'm a little more cautious when it comes to taking risks. So I don't like to take risks. He's a little bit more of a risk taker. So that is another thing. Sometimes we have to kind of go back and forth and bounce off of each other. And often I have these ideas, great ideas, and he will push me, go ahead and do it, do it, do it, do it. And I'm going to tell you, I have like some issues in those areas because I do pull back because I'm scared and I don't want to lose any money, right?
yeah,
But the support, the backing, the things that I need to be successful on my end to make us be successful together, because anything that I'm successful at, obviously he's successful and he constantly tells me this. And anything that he's successful at is obviously my success, right? So just kind of making sure that that whole system works
Yeah.
with one
And
another.
and when it comes to investment, what I would say about that is invest in
Long
things.
term.
Yeah, invest in things that will appreciate.
Mhm.
Don't invest in things that depreciates, right? So that's all I'm gonna say. That invest in things that will appreciate and have value. So I don't think I need to go more into that, right?
Yeah, because I mean, oftentimes we put a lot of interest financially in things that are not going to do anything for us, right?
And we should every like investment is great. Like you should always invest. I would say that every day. Always invest. Always invest. Invest in things that appreciates. So, but yeah, because that's always something. And the reason why I say that is that's something that you could always, if everything fails, you could always reach back and grab something from there. So, that's one of the reasons why I said to invest in stuff that appreciates.
And it's okay to do other things like vacations and the frivolous stuff because you have to live, right? You have
No,
to
yeah,
enjoy
yeah, yeah.
life.
You're gonna do all of that,
Don't
but
overdo it with
but
limit and
don't yeah,
balance. Yeah.
don't forget that you should still invest a little. It doesn't matter how small it is. It does not matter how small it is, as long as you're investing something. Because 6, 7 years, 5 years down the road, you're gonna be like, man, I'm glad I did that. So, um, just invest. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter
Invest,
how
save.
small it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, save.
So, one thing that Nick brought to light, I know when he was talking to our daughter, like about financial strength in the future and so forth, he said something very, very potent to me because when I first started off, I guess by the time I came to the US, I didn't really understand how they did things, and things were similar in Canada as well. However, they had certain things that you could like pour into when you start, like when you're working. One of them was like the health savings plans, um, even things for child's care. You know, it offsets your taxes and 401ks. So, in my mind, and this is definitely like a poverty mindset that, you know, if you lose $1 out of your paycheck, it's no longer your dollar. You can't get to spend it. You can't get to do what you want with it. And that's a terrible, terrible way to think, right? So, if you have a 401k that will match, say, that will match you up to a certain dollar, let's just say they say we will match you up to, give me a reasonable number because I can't even remember what they
You
are
could just say
anymore.
you could go five. You could use five.
$500.
Five. No, like 5%.
Okay.
Say they'll match 5%.
Okay. Five. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's usually a
your
percentage.
yeah, it's
I'm
a
forgetting what it
percentage.
was.
Your industry you're working, or your what is it?
Yeah. Whatever area you work in.
Your
Yeah.
company will match you
5%.
5%.
Okay. So this is what I had to learn because when I was very young, I didn't understand this. Even if I like heard it and they talk about your future, like when you're young, you're not thinking about your future all that much financially. You just know you're making the
Thinking
money
about
now.
I need that money right
Now,
now. You can't take a
yes.
dollar out of my check because I'm not gonna see it.
So if you pour in, let's just say $100 and they're going to match you, because I don't remember it being like, say, 5%. And you're throwing a number out, it may not
Yeah.
even be an accurate number, but I remember it being dollar for dollar up until a certain amount. And so if you put $100, they would match you $100, for instance, right?
Mhm.
You put your 100 and they're giving you another 100. Well, that's $200 that you didn't have before when
And
you had your $100 in your savings account over there. So there's a lot of little savvy ways that you can save your money and build your wealth and your use that as an asset for
mhm, that is
future
true.
use. So Nick said something key to me. Nick was like, the problem when you're young is when you start a job, you don't want the money to come out. But if immediately when you start the job, you allow the money to be taken away for disbursement into your financial funds, your investment funds, whatever, even if it goes into your bank account and on, say, this particular week when you get paid bi-weekly, weekly, whatever, monthly, if you have it automatically withdrawn into this investment fund or that investment fund, then you don't see that money to begin with. So you never get comfortable with the money. And after a while, it becomes a habit. So you live, I hate to use this saying, it's so cliche, but live within your limits, right? If you don't have $500 every single month to use, you're not going to miss $500. So if you start these things from the beginning, then it becomes easier. And he always says this to me, it's hard in the beginning. So if you haven't been doing it and you want to start doing it, it's hard in the beginning. Maybe the first few months, it's very difficult. But after a while, you kind of get the hang of it and you discipline yourself not to think about the missing money and it won't be an issue for you.
Yeah. And that's when you adjust, right?
You
That's where
adjust.
the adjusting come in. So and what you don't have, you won't miss, right? So like you alluded to, the earlier you start that, like from the beginning,
That's all you.
from
Yeah.
from the beginning, if you just have it, you know, taken out or whatever you want to, you'll never because you never see it wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't there. So and that's just money that you could use as an asset, or like you said, whatever you want to do with it down the road. And that's a great way to kind of invest and save for the future.
Mm-hmm.
um but as young people, and as a kid growing up or whatever, I get it and I understand it. Like, you need money.
Because you want the
Every
nice
Yeah,
car.
every dollar counts
You
or
want the nice
whatever.
designer
You know what I
purse,
mean?
the
and
shoes. Yeah.
and and to be honest, frankly, to be honest, a lot of time we were never taught financial literacy. You know what I mean? Growing up. You so growing up, you kind of you kind of adapt some of these principles and learn about it and try it out and experience it, and then whatever you gain, then it's your job to pass it down to your kids and let them know. So but yeah, because I didn't just know how to do that. I just sitting around and listening to other
Listening.
people and
Mm-hmm.
just hearing conversations about it. And
Especially at work,
yeah,
they have a
and
lot of
try to
conversations
and
about finances.
because you hear about the all I used to hear about is, they taking money out of my check, taking money out of my check. But when you hear a different side of it, it makes sense, right? You kind of could put both of them
Mm-hmm.
together and see what makes more sense,
Mm-hmm.
and then decide what you want to do. So um but yeah, like just invest and try to
Save.
try to save for the
Mm-hmm.
future, right? um but yeah.
So, which of these things do you think that would help save your marriage financially the most? So, which of these things do you think would, I shouldn't say save your marriage, which of these things do you think would help your marriage the most? These things that we discussed. So, let me go back over them. Just having a monthly money date, per se, creating a no judgment zone for money,
Mhm.
making a budget, deciding on spending limits, and then saving and investments. Which one do you think? So let us know in the comment section because we are interested in hearing what you have to say. Okay. So I'm just going to say the Bible, and you guys could do your own research. The Bible has a lot of insight on how to gain financial wealth. I have heard people say things like, the Bible made me rich, the Bible saved me. And I'm just going to say this. If you guys are looking at scripture and reading scripture, everything is in there for financial growth. Everything is right inside that book called the Bible. What do they call it? The book of instruction before leaving the earth.
The basic
Or
instruction
basic instruction.
before leaving Earth.
Okay.
So I mean, and that makes sense, right? Because it has all has
Everything.
all the components, all the ingredients of what you need to 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 be financially stable and get ahead, right? Faith, faith is something you can't see, you know, um, but you believe in it, right?
Mhm.
Um, the discipline, right? You got to have discipline and consistency, right?
Mhm.
So
And there's other pathways that the Bible talks about, like the amount of streams of income that you should have in order to be successful and so forth, that you should always be striving towards. So the borrower is a servant to the lender. Proverbs 22, verse 7 says so.
yeah,
Okay. Take that and make it what you want. Um, okay. So, money definitely should not control your marriage. It should be a servant to your marriage. Let the money serve your marriage. Do not let it control your marriage.
I agree with that. I completely agree with that. You have to let the money work for you. You can't be working for the money. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say on that.
And if you guys know of any biblical principles in particular that should always be maintained in a marriage, please let us know in the comment section. I'm trying to get you guys in the comment section. Okay. Of course, don't forget to like the video. If you guys are still watching, like the video and share with somebody. If you feel that this content is very interesting, or, a nice little discussion, or somebody's going through this particular thing, go ahead and share this discussion with them. Because money should never be a reason why marriage is struggling. That should absolutely not happen. We know statistically it is one of
Yeah.
the things that causes disruption in marriages, but most of us are not filthy rich, and it should never be.
And to me, I feel like what? I feel like people with more money um has a dysfunction in their marriage than people with less money.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy how that works?
Well, it's like all of the
So
parables about the poor man versus the rich man making it to heaven, right?
yeah.
So, for some reason, money seems to be an interference in people. It gives them a power or a sense of they're be they're beyond the
And
creator,
and
right?
and I think when you have two people um that's making significant amount of money, has significant careers going, um it could pose issues if that's not
There's no
managed
balance.
if that's not managed properly. That could cause some type of issue. So um yeah.
So, yeah, as we close as well. So, I- if you set a plan and you work together,
Yeah.
it's going to work and you guys will prosper. You definitely are going to prosper.
Yeah, that's like I said, consistency, discipline, and
Committing to financial
yeah, and
transparency,
and adjustment. That's what I do, every single day, so it works for us. Like I said, like we said earlier, this is just I'm just sharing some of the things that work for us.
mhm,
um Something else might work for you guys. You guys could tell us down below what works for you guys. um And if you have any ideas out there, you could share it with us too. So I would definitely be reading the comments and see what you guys have to say about it.
Definitely. Okay, and remember that the end result of all of this should be you should be in a better place than you were before you met your spouse. You should be able to build wealth and you should be able to see that multiply along the way. And remember, you're not building wealth for yourself necessarily. If you have a family with children, you are building wealth for them ultimately, because generational wealth is key to your future generations. And if you don't build generational wealth, your kids risk struggling, their kids risk struggling. Showing them how to manage things correctly is wealth in and of itself.
That is true.
Making the marriage work without these arguments over finances is a blessing. Okay. So just remember, the key is to build financial wealth amongst yourself in your relationship with your significant other. And if you guys missed last week's topic, oh my gosh, we talked about the most important thing in a marriage, and why the most important thing in the marriage was not love, believe it or not. So we went back into that topic kind of on a different angle. But if you guys missed that last week, go back and please check that one out. And we have a few more topics that we will be covering as we move forward. And are we going to be doing a sit down next week? No, it's not next week. We'll be taking a break in a couple of weeks. We'll be missing 1 week. So anyways, we are so happy that you guys have come and spent time with us tonight. We absolutely love you guys. We want you to stay safe, and you know what to do. Again, hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed any part of our conversation. Even if you didn't disagree, or if you didn't agree with some of the things that we said, we agreed to disagree, but you like to have conversations like this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the like button so that we can get thrown out into YouTube worlds out there.
Just stay consistent, guys. Adjust and what was the other thing I said? Discipline.
Discipline.
Yeah, so discipline, consistency, and adjustment.